let's talk about some of the things that obviously everybody is thinking about. Now, here's some good news. I want you to hear an ABC News report about grocery prices. We just talked about this in Did You Hear This? But it's a good thing.
According to the Labor Department, prices for food at home fell by 0.2% overall in April. In some cases, the decline is even more significant. Prices for milk, chicken, fruits, and vegetables are down nearly 1%, while apples dropped 2.7%. Steak and ribs fell 2.3%, and eggs plummeted by 7.3%.
Now, you got to remember a lot of these, like with commodities like eggs, a lot of this has to do with this bird flu thing that's going on, that when it affects big farms, when it affects big hen houses, there is a big effect on the industry. And I only know this because of the people over at our Hickman Farms here in Arizona that have not had to deal with this. But when you have an outbreak of something like that and you lose that many laying hens, it affects everybody in the market, and that those commodities prices spike. It's great news that they are beginning to cut their prices. It's really good. Now, the National Association of Business Executives, economics, I should say, not executives, business economics, they're predicting inflation is going to stay high this year. Congress is setting the stage for a side deal on spending. So Republicans propose cutting 6% of non-defense spending. Now, this all goes back down to policy and ideology, and this is where the political parties largely come into play, at least they have in the past. And I don't think they're a more so, and I think one deserves the other and the other they need each other. When you talk about the primary responsibility of government, there's an ideology that believes that largely government should stay out of the way as much as possible. I would say to you that the federal government has three primary responsibilities: national defense, protect the borders, and infrastructure, freeways, bridges, internet, electrical grid safety. That's their primary job, in my opinion. We need the federal law enforcement agencies, the FBI, and what they're doing with countering terrorism, the Drug Enforcement Administration. All of those federal agencies are necessary, but that's part of the primary role. Everything else that government does is not necessarily their primary role, and that's where I begin to differ with people. And if you listen, I am someone that cares a great deal about people, and I want everyone to flourish, and I think we all should be a part of solutions to the problems in our society. The homelessness uptick, what's going on with fentanyl overdoses, the heat-related deaths largely because of fentanyl overdoses. People are so high, they don't know they're dying, and they're dying from this extreme heat in Arizona because they're so addicted and so influenced by these drugs. All of these things are issues that I'm telling you, federal involvement isn't solving these problems, that wise cities like the city of Phoenix is investing with and partnering with the private organizations like St. Vincent de Paul that really address these issues better than anyone else. So I'm not someone that doesn't. It's not a one size fits all. You can care deeply about the outcomes for people and try to help people be as successful as they can be without saying that the government should be doing it. And that's where I fall into that camp. There's another political ideology that believes that the government's responsibility is to be the safety net for its society, that when there is a great problem in our society, the government's job is to fix that problem. And I think that as much as that ideology sounds like a great idea, it fails because of the bureaucracy that government creates. I say that pertaining to the economy because look at where we've gotten ourselves. The United States government collects an overwhelming amount of the wealth from the American people, and they are immensely inefficient with it. Just go look yourself. They are printing money and they are borrowing money, and that is what the big cause of inflation is. Until they stop borrowing all that money, until they stop doing what they're doing, you are not going to see us get down anywhere near the 2% inflation rate that's considered acceptable by the Fed. We've done everything we've done now. You look at how it's pinched the American consumer. The stories, and you know, I love the segment we do every day at 11:20 called "Did You Hear This?" because I don't have any idea. I really have no idea what Julia is going to do in that segment. But today she, like she does every day, hits it out of the park. Those stories were exactly the stories that people are concerned about. And the concern that people have about prices, when you look at all the election data, it is about inflation. So you are either going to listen to the ideology that says private industry is to blame, or you're going to listen to the people that are saying we want to do our best for people. Here's an example I'll give you. If you look at the benefits you get by working in a government job, so you've got the federal government that is operating at a massive deficit, a massive spending deficit, and yet we have immensely grown the size of the federal government. We continue to hire federal workers, and look at the benefit packages they get with vacation days and sick days and holidays and the pensions that they get and the medical packages that they get and severance packages when they leave. It's huge. I would venture to say that the majority of private sector jobs, employers would love to be able to afford to do that for their employees. They're not able to. Well, the government either confiscates enough from those businesses to do it for government workers, or they print more money, or they borrow more money. My business, your business, wherever you work could not survive by saying, we're going to pay our people large amounts of money. We're going to be redundant in our hiring process and hire more people than we need. We're going to give them benefit packages that are better than anything else that's out there. And if we happen to run at a huge deficit and we run up trillions of dollars in debt, we're going to continue to run our business that way. There's not a business out there that can do it. And I've talked about this many times. I'm going to keep saying it. Go and look yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Go and look at the increase in government in the last 3 years. When you look at the jobs numbers, and the jobs numbers remain strong. Now, I'm not saying it was government jobs that were the cause of it remaining strong, but what it was, and you look in the top 3 areas of non-farm job growth that were added to our economy, almost every single month those numbers came out, government jobs were in the top 3. So here you are tightening the belt in your home. You're either getting more jobs, you're spending less money, you're bargain shopping for everything that you have, skipping meals to make your bills, and do all these other things families are forced to do, and our government continues to grow in scope and size. That doesn't seem fair to me. That does not seem fair to me. So I'm not an anti-government person, but we've got to have people with ideologies. If you're on the campaign trail, your ideology, and this is where I'm going to be. You can talk about a specific issue, you can talk about a specific piece of legislation, but overall, what about this? The American people should be burdened as little as possible for the government to do the job it needs to do. Locally, and this is the last thing I'll talk about, locally, I have been very complimentary of some of the decisions of the Phoenix City Council. But when it comes to the prevailing wage ordinance, when it comes to the city of Phoenix telling the entire contracting world that we are going to live by a prevailing wage rule, which means we are telling all of the people that do work in the city of Phoenix, you are going to pay your employees a lot more money than the market bears. And we are going to eat it as a city. You're going to prove to us you're paying them more money. You're also going to mark that up so you make a profit, but you're going to be forced to pay your employees more money. We're saying that if you want to work on our jobs. So the city is going to pay probably 20% more, maybe a little more than that, maybe 30% more to get a project done than you would in the private sector using your tax dollars. So the city of Phoenix is talking about a possible budget shortfall next year. And there may be a budget shortfall in Phoenix next year. And they're now going to intentionally spend more money. You look at the old Wells Fargo building that's going to be remodeled for the Phoenix Police Department. You look at they're going to be building a brand new terminal at Sky Harbor Airport. We're not talking about small projects. And if it's prevailing wage, you're going to be taking the best employees out of the private sector because they'll go take the government job because it pays more money by the hour. So it's going to hurt private industry, number one. And number two, you as a taxpayer are intentionally spending more money than you have to. Who ever heard of such a thing? No one. No one's ever heard of an organization, of a builder saying, hey, to all you subcontractors, you're going to pay your people $3 to $4 more per hour, and I'm going to eat the cost in that just because I think it's the right thing to do. It doesn't make any sense. And it's just one more area of government growth and encroachment that ends up costing the taxpayers in the long run. It's not their checkbook. It's your checkbook. They just happen to be writing the checks.
Thanks for watching The Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.